Hello, and welcome to this episode of The Age of AI. I'm your host, Shelly Kramer, Principal Analyst here at Kramer&Co. And today we are diving into a recent AI-related announcement and one that there's a lot of excitement about, and that's Zoho's launch of Zia LLM. That is a proprietary large language model developed entirely in-house alongside a powerful suite of AI agents, a no-code agent studio, and an expanded AI marketplace. So, to set the stage a little bit before we dive into that conversation, I don't have to tell you that Gen AI has exploded over the course of the last year or so. And let's see, according to a recent study, Gen AI usage has surged a paltry 890% in the last year alone. So, yes, everybody's talking about it. Everybody's thinking about it. Everybody's experimenting with it. So it only makes sense for us to see announcements and growth from companies like Zoho. And Zoho isn't just dipping a toe into generative AI. The company is going all in, building foundational technology that promises to really redefine how businesses deploy intelligent automation at scale. I'm joined today by Raju Vegesna, who's the chief evangelist at Zoho, and we're going to unpack what this means for enterprise users and how Zoho's privacy-first infrastructure sets the company apart, and why the rise of agentic AI might just be the most important shift in business software since the cloud. Raju, welcome. I'm so glad to have you.
Great to be here, Shelly.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for making time for me today, and congratulations on this big news. I know that you all are super excited, and analysts are excited, and customers are excited. So, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I love to start these conversations by asking you to just share a little bit, if you would, about your career backstory, your career journey, if you will.
Yeah, one of those people that have been with the company for a long time. I've been with Zoho for about 25 years. And it's when you spend over half of your life in a particular company where it transitions from work life to life's work.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of those stories within Zoho. I'm one of those. And, prior to Zoho, just after graduating, I ended up doing a startup, wanting to build products. And here I am building products a few decades later.
Doing exactly what you set out to do.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Raju, it speaks volumes about the culture of any organization when you see people who have literally spent almost their entire careers, if not their entire careers, working with the organization. There's always, Zoho has such an amazing culture. And I think that, from an analyst standpoint, I'm a customer as well. You can see that culture is really infused throughout every part of the organization, from the leadership on down.
Totally. And particularly in the technology industry, the technology changes so frequently that there are few pieces that keep changing, but there are a few pieces that do not change. The ones that keep changing in our technology industry is the technology itself. And the products that we created, say, 20, 25 years back, most people don't even remember, right?
Yeah.
And so there are some rapid shifts in technology, but then there are things that are consistent: the culture, the values, the people. As long as you have a culture of changing your know-how, knowledge, technology, but keep the values and other things grounded, then you have yourself a culture that is long lasting. And we are fortunate to build that at Zoho. Most of the people that were in the company 25 years back, 29 years back, are still with the company today. So end of the day, we're a technology company. We like what we're doing, and the rapid pace also keeps the day-to-day life interesting.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, let's start with the big picture and the most recent news. What drove Zoho to build this proprietary large language model called Zia LLM?
At its core, as I said, we're a technology company, which means we love building technology. And when there's a new piece of technology called AI that has come, and it's not new to us, we have been doing AI for 13 plus years. But when there are new LLMs, now that excites us. Well, as a technology company, we want to build the technology. So we said, okay, why don't we take a crack at it? At the core, that's about it. Technology excites us. And so we got to build it, right? So that's the approach. So we said we started building. Then you can zoom out a little bit and say that because we are a technology company, we want to own the pieces that are part of this. It's like a car company owning how to create an engine. So how can we be a cloud company if we do not own the cloud? How can we be an AI company if we don't own the heart of it, which is an AI model? So we set out to build AI models.
Yeah.
And we may not be the first company to build it, but we'll build it based on our own view, our own convictions, our own thought process, and all of that. And that is the exciting part. And of course, there are benefits that our customers see as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to dive into those benefits here in a minute. So let's talk a little bit, though, more, you know, the Zia LLM is really just one piece of a kind of big puzzle. So I'd love it if you would walk us through Zoho's broader agentic AI strategy and talk with me through, what you see that makes your approach to pre-built agents and custom agent building unique in the market.
I think we are one of those companies that is vertically integrated, meaning we like all of the pieces in the stack.
Yeah.
If we look at the, like our cloud applications today, we build our own applications, everything from scratch. We build the infrastructure that is necessary for the cloud. That includes app servers, web servers. We run our own data centers. We own the hardware and the entire stack. It's the same approach applied to AI, where we want to own all aspects of the stack so that we can deliver, good value to the customers. So in the context of AI, what the customer sees is the value they're getting through the product. It could be an application, it could be an agent or whatever. But what drives that benefit is the how the individual components come together. In other words, if the ingredients are well put together, you get a good recipe. And the good news is we source the ingredients in house and we create those ingredients so that we can control every piece of this ingredient so that we can put together a good recipe for the customer. And in this case, in the context of a software AI, the ingredients happen to be the LLMs, the ingredients happen to be the agents, and
Yeah.
all are being put together to help the customer and deliver a good recipe. And in this case, the user's productivity. They should be excited to use the products, and that should make them productive. Well, actually, the thing about business and software, and the secret in business software is if you take out boring things, people are willing to pay. And if you make people lazy, people are willing to pay. And AI does both, where AI can take over the boring things and AI can also make us lazy. What do we do with the time that we save when AI does the work? Well, it's not like we're going to be more productive. We'll probably go grab an extra coffee due to that. But productivity gains are available through AI, and we are pulling all of these pieces together to deliver or give back the time to the customer.
Yeah, I think that's important. I was at a technology vendors analyst day event probably about 6 months ago, and one of the AI focused product managers was giving a keynote, and what he said really resonated with me, Raju. And he mentioned that when we have conversations about AI, a lot of our focus is on productivity, efficiency, all of that sort of thing. But he said, the way that I like to look at it, and the way that I have my team look at it, is that productivity is just one part of a bigger equation. And what I passionately believe that we're doing is that we're creating better experiences for our customers as a result of AI powered technology. We're creating better experiences for our employees, for our users, for our, and yeah, we do have a situation where AI is thankfully stepping in and taking the load of some of that drudge work that we all have spent a lot of our careers doing. And maybe it does free us up time to go grab a coffee every now and then. But what it really does that I think is so valuable for businesses in general is that it allows smart people to focus on things that deliver, more value to the business in more meaningful ways. But it also helps create jobs that are more interesting, and so you have a cultural aspect here, and I really liked his outlook in terms of thinking about how AI delivers on the experience front as opposed to only thinking about it from productivity. What do you think about that?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Technology can eliminate what I call as 3Ds, that is dangerous, dirty, and drudgery. And if technology can eliminate those and we get to focus on the exciting part,
Yeah.
that very much helps everyone. And I think AI is part of the solution as well.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So let's talk a little bit about value. You kind of touched on this earlier in our conversation, Raju, but with Zia LLM trained specifically on Zoho product use cases, how
Mhm.
does this translate to day one value for users across functions like sales and customer support or data analysis? Do you have any standout early examples you can share with me?
There are, see, when you have a generic LLM, obviously you end up paying a performance penalty as opposed to a specialized, tailor-made LLM. What we are making is a tailor-made LLM that users don't have to pay any performance penalty. What does that mean? Well, it comes down to using the same analogy we used earlier. When ingredients get expensive, the dish will end up being expensive.
Yeah.
So if to deliver the software or experience that you're talking about, if individual performance penalty is high, that means you have to pay a lot of money to get a certain functionality right. That capability will not exist, and or you'll have to pay a premium. Now we are interested in delivering performance as well as value, and without compromising that. That means you got to own each of these ingredients and optimize the model so that we can deliver that value across the board.
Yeah.
So, like, and we have optimized it for a few scenarios. Let's take a few examples. Like, you recorded several videos. If you can put all these videos in a simple, let's say we call it Zia Hub. We launched it recently.
Yeah.
Now imagine having tens or hundreds of videos. Now you can ask Zia a simple question and say, what was the answer to this question across all industry experts that you asked? Now Zia can respond saying that these are the responses, and you can pinpoint to that particular minute in that particular video where that particular person responded across
Yeah.
all of these videos. So you're taking something in unstructured data, that is in this case a video file, and converted that into a structured information where the LLM can pinpoint to that exact specific location where the person has answered to that particular query. Now that requires a certain optimization. We have taken that optimization, built it into our LLM, and we are rolling it out. So things like that, you can do that with audio files. You can put all your audio files you have across all the customer support and say, hey, what were the most complaints from our customers? And
Right.
then it can pinpoint to the exact location as well. So if you take a scenario like that, where you're converting an unstructured data into a structured format, that is a value add that is a very specific to a business use case. And can you optimize a generic LLM into a very specialized LLM use case? You can. And we are taking several such use cases and optimizing our LLM for those purposes. Now, you don't pay a performance penalty because this is not a generic LLM. This is a specialized LLM. And that also means we can deliver it in most cases without having to charge extra for AI.
Okay. With all eyes focused on costs these days, I think that's a pretty important part of the overall value prop.
Totally. I think a lot of cases we see, some cases AI being shoved down customers' throats and
Right.
forcing them to pay more.
Yeah.
And we are actually thinking the other way, where how can we keep delivering more value without forcing customers to pay more? And
Yeah.
that requires controlling the input costs. And one of the key input costs is an LLM. That explains why we are doing our own LLM.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I'm sitting here listening to you talk and thinking about, use cases. And I'm thinking about, for instance, the example that you gave about video. I do hundreds of video interviews on an annual basis, right? And to be able to have those videos be in a central hub and to be able to extract value from them, a lot of times when we create content, whether you're a tech analyst or you're a B2B vendor or you're an agency, whatever, I mean, we all create content as part of what it is we do, right? And a lot of times I think we create content and it's sort of one and done. I recorded that video interview. It lives on my LinkedIn profile and on YouTube and on my website and everything else, but what what residual value can I get from that content that I invested in creating, that my clients invested in, being alongside me to help create these conversations? And so when you think about being able to extract value from that library of content, I think that's particularly compelling when you think about it from a corporate knowledge base, right? And how, as a whole, an organization can more easily benefit from the content that's created and the vast expertise and knowledge that exists throughout the organization that sometimes we do a poor job of tapping. I think that's a potential use case. And then, of course, when you look at it from the contact center standpoint, and you think about now you have a situation where this AI powered technology can quickly help you identify um, problem areas, common customer issues, things that would help drive R&D or different initiatives and things like that. So there's so many different ways to get value here. I think that's what I see as pretty exciting.
Totally. And there is a general purpose generic LLM, which and it has differences from the specific enterprise specific LLM, because with a general purpose LLM, you are basically indexing whatever data that is available on the open web.
Right.
But in the enterprise use case, the same question will have a different answer for every single person.
Sure.
You go to your system and say, show me my emails. The response is going to be different for every single individual, and you cannot index the other person's email. So
Right.
the permission structure, the AAA authentication, authorization, and access control is an inherent layer that is unique for every single business.
Yeah.
And then if you consider the work graph, the people that you interact with, and that has a strength, the relation, and then the expertise of each individual. How does that translate? How can
Yeah.
you capture it? So the LLM has to be designed ground up, considering these use cases. So
Yeah.
you cannot take a consumer LLM and slap it in a business use case.
Yeah.
You have to build something from scratch, and that's the reason we ended up building it from scratch.
Yeah. Well, that makes perfect sense. So, Raju, you've introduced Zia Agent Studio, and it's a no-code platform designed for building AI agents. How is this lowering the barrier for enterprise teams to be able to embrace and also scale AI-driven automation?
Sure. At a high level, at Zoho, we are launching a lot of agents. There will be a lot of out-of-the-box agents. For now, we are starting with a few tens of agents that we are rolling out by default. But people are creative, and they have very, very specific use cases that they want to solve. And it could vary by function, it could be vary by industry, could vary by country, by use case. So we cannot practically create every single agent a
Right.
user needs. So we developed a no code or a low code tool called Agent Studio, enabling our customers, our developers, our partner ecosystem to develop their own agents and deploy it. deployed with all the constraints, permission structure, and all of those in place, the necessary guardrails and governance in place. So we had to develop a tool, and that is what we're launching as a agent studio. This is part of our developer toolkit. We have launched several other toolkits, like AutoML, QuickML, and several others where people can create train models and all of those. This is yet another low-code, no-code tools available to developers to expand and extend the agents that they already have. So this is an exciting platform. The key really is the possibilities of the kind of agents that can be created for any scenario, and let the user base create whatever agents that they prefer.
Yeah.
And we want to enable it, and we want to use AI to do it so that doing an agent itself becomes really easy.
Yeah. Just kind of second nature.
Totally.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Raju, I am finding, and I'm sure you are as well, that we can't really have a conversation about AI today without talking about model context protocol.
Mhm.
So, talk with me, if you would, about MCP and what that unlocks for developers and how it's exciting because it enables interoperability beyond Zoho's own ecosystem, and not just Zoho. But anyway, talk with me a little bit about MCP and why all of our conversations today are
Yeah.
are involving MCP.
It's certainly, every company, particularly product companies, offer certain products, and each product can be accessed, and the data from those products can be historically were accessed through API. And there's no standards for API. Every vendor has its own API, and some vendors who offer multiple products, every product may have its own format. And that is the problem MCP solves, where it's a common protocol that is now being adopted, where whatever functionality that you want to expose as a vendor, you can expose it to through this common protocol and say, okay, anyone can access your data with appropriate permissions and authorization in place, and gain that data from any MCP client. And that MCP client could be another agent. So if an agent wants to get data from Zoho to integrate that with maybe any other third-party applications, as long as they speak the same language, in this case, the language is MCP, they can grab the data and integrate it, keeping the power and moving the power to the customer. They don't have to be a developer per se to do or to integrate two things. All you need is an agent that talks a language called MCP, and they can integrate multiple data sources, multiple workflows across vendors with a simple thing. It was a great standard that was introduced. So what we are doing is we are launching an MCP server where Zoho data is available to be integrated with any third party.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, there's every reason that everybody's excited about MCP, and I appreciate that explanation, Raju. So let's talk now about data privacy. That's probably all things related to data is the biggest challenge as it relates to embracing AI across the board for any organization of any size. And of course, data privacy is a growing concern as it relates to AI. How does Zoho's infrastructure, especially keeping data on Zoho servers, support customer trust and regulatory compliance?
We as a company have been big on privacy. We cannot say we protect your information if we do not control where that information is stored.
Yeah.
Because if you're dependent on third party and the third party changes their rules, all of a sudden we cannot guarantee what we promise to our customers. So that's why we vertically integrate, make sure that all our customers' data is within our data centers, and that way we are able to guarantee. Now, when it comes to AI, there is a different thing where if you don't own the AI, you're sending customers' information to a third party AI system.
Right.
When you send information to an AI model, is there a guarantee that the AI model forgets that information? there's no guarantee per se, where there's no way to know whether the AI model forgets that information or
Right.
not. And we can't offer the same guarantee because we do not control the model. And it is a third party. We have to take it by their word, assuming that they are protecting your information. That is another reason for doing our
Right.
own models, where you're building it from scratch, where we can say, hey, we have built it from scratch. We know that we can forget this information. And we have trained it in a certain way, but the customer can choose if their information can be used to train it for their own particular purpose through RAG and all of those.
Right.
So that's why we ended up doing the models, training it ground up with privacy in mind, deploying the models in our use cases, in our data centers, and going through that. In fact, we are also seeing other cases where customers are saying, I don't trust the public models. So I've taken some open source model, trained it for my particular business, and I want you to use my model because I don't trust any particular any any other hosted models. We see that a lot.
Yeah.
And we are
Yeah.
also seeing customers wanting to deploy some of our models natively within their infrastructure, behind their firewall, within their country, to train it for very, very specific cases because where they are very concerned about privacy. So a lot of these scenarios are coming up. This is where owning the ingredients plays a critical role so that we can take it, optimize it for those specific use cases while protecting their privacy.
Yeah. As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about, you made this statement about, um, rather than assuming someone is, has the right privacy protections in place or whatever, like that's the thing here, folks. When it comes to working with any third party vendor, you can't make assumptions. You can't make assumptions that data privacy is their primary concern. You can't make assumptions that they have the right guardrails and the right protections in place. And I think that, to me, that's an important part of this value proposition as well, is that, trust is inherently a part of what it is that you're providing.
Totally. And there is not to deviate too much, sometimes privacy policies change,
Yeah.
partly because, uh, who the real customer is for a company matters. Are you sure you're the real customer? And for a particular company, that's an important question to ask. Or is it the investor that is the real customer? And if a company is not able to deliver enough returns to the investor, will the company change their privacy policy to sell the information and make more money to the investor? That's an important question to ask. And that is the reason privacy policies change.
Right.
If you are the real customer, chances are high that you're going to be taken care well. If you're not, then that trust factor is questionable.
Yeah. Yeah. Incredibly. It's an important conversation to have, an important things to think about as you're sort of mapping out your AI strategy and deciding who to partner with and that sort of thing, for sure. So, Raju, as we begin to wrap this conversation, I want to ask you to look ahead. What's your vision for AI agents, marketplaces, internal LLMs, and how internal LLMs like Zia will help shape the future of enterprise software? And also, where does Zoho want to lead in that future?
Yeah. It's tough to predict where AI is going to be in detail,
Yeah.
but we can see the direction it's going in. It is going to change a lot of things. It is possible that AI is part of a broader thing where if you zoom out, AI is the brain, robotics is the body. These are coming together. That is one direction it's going. But if you look at software itself, and AI is able to produce a lot of software, that means coding becomes easy. That also means everyone can produce a lot of software. And a lot
Right.
of people are able to produce a lot of software for less. Then there is a possibility that some of the software itself will be commoditized. There is
Yeah.
that side of the world. And then there is also the productivity gains where users focus on experiences. There is that possibility. So we are at a interesting juncture where we are about to see the next 10 plus years of innovation powered by AI. It's tough to guess where that world is going to be,
Okay.
but we want to be certainly part of it. To be part of that particular future, we have to own some of the key ingredients, and that is part of the reason we are building these, because we want to control our own destiny,
Yeah.
and we don't want to be value added resellers of others technology. So we want to own part of the technology and the core part of the technology. That's how we have navigated the previous challenges. We were started during the very, very early days of the internet, and where downloading pieces of software was a common. I remember shipping our software on 3.5-inch floppy drives.
Yeah.
And now we are talking about a different age, but it's the same company. And for a company to be relevant, we have to be changing. And AI is going to be a game changer, obviously. And there will be more such waves to come. So we are going to be core part of that. And we'll do our part when it comes to innovation, serving the businesses.
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting to even think about. Like, I find it impossible to think about what 10 years from now will be like. I mean, we're just seeing such a rapid evolution, especially all things related to AI, and things are happening at such a rapid pace, and that pace continues to escalate. And I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, about, that 5-year plan that we used to make. That's impossible to do anymore. So it's interesting, it's exciting, it's really a very cool time to be doing what we each respectively get to do, isn't it?
Absolutely. There is historically, some of these technologies have changed the distribution time, right? If you like software innovations, uh, change the distribution time. If you take the music industry, movie industry, software industry,
Mhm.
you know, we changed from shipping in floppy drives to CDs to DVDs to downloadable software to streaming. Now that is SaaS, right? And that is the case with all of that. And all the previous technology innovations changed that. But this one, we are changing the creation time, because
Yeah,
previous innovations did not change the creation time much.
yeah,
But now we can create software by asking AI to do it. So now there's a disruption coming to the creation part as well. And that has a lot of ripple effects. So it's exciting, as you said,
yeah.
and exciting and scary at the same time.
Yeah, I find myself very grateful, um, to, I'm a believer that you kind of get what you get when it comes to, your personality and sort of your wiring, if you will, in terms of how you think about change and how you navigate change. And I find myself more and more grateful every day that I love change. I love continuous learning. I love experimenting and solving problems and things like that. And I think that, and I'm grateful to sort of be wired like that, because I think it sort of makes navigating a time like this, easier. And
Totally.
and it doesn't mean, I spend a lot of time thinking about what this age of AI means as it relates to the workforce. And we're already seeing a massive impact on, in some ways, the decimation of part of the workforce. And I think that, we, as leaders, we talk a lot, and we tend to lean on sayings like, well, AI isn't going to take your job. Someone who knows how to use AI will. But the reality of it is, AI is going to take many jobs. And what we have, and we're navigating an evolution of the business world. We're navigating an evolution of our personal worlds, and we're navigating an evolution of the workforce and the workplace. And that is something that I think that we need to talk a lot more about, and we need to think about beyond, how excited we are about all things AI and what it will do for us from a productivity standpoint. But what does this mean for the rest of our workplace and the impact there? That's probably a conversation for another day, but we have so much change on the horizon that it is very exciting. It's also really a little terrifying.
Totally. And the key word you mentioned is evolution. If
Yeah.
you are ready to evolve, then it's easy to navigate,
Yeah.
and it's exciting as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, with that, we're going to wrap this episode of The Age of AI. I'm Shelly Kramer, Principal Analyst here at Kramer and Company. And thanks to my guest today, Raju Vegesna, Chief Evangelist at Zoho, for joining me. And we will see you here next time.